everyone, and welcome to Exoconscious Humans YouTube channel. This is an exciting day for us because we are continuing to interview our coaching participants in the Exoconscious Coaching groups. And today we have Donna Atwood. And I hope everyone enjoys this interview about contact and co-creation and how this has changed her life. And also, please like or subscribe to our channel and follow us on social media. Also, you can subscribe to our newsletter, and that way you'll get all of the upcoming interviews that we're going to have, as well as any programs coming from Exoconscious Humans. You'll be able to participate in that. Also, I just want to give just a brief heads up that we're going to be announcing a new program this fall, and it's going to be exciting. It's going to also involve the coaching participants and you, and we'll have more about that as the time goes on. So be sure and subscribe to our newsletter. It's Exoconscious Humans, that's plural.com, and just go on and do subscribe. And also, for those of you who subscribe, you'll receive a free copy of our initial Exoconscious Coaching Manual, which is always informative to go through if you're a contactee and you want to know a little bit more about what happened to you, go deeper into who you are. But today we're going to go deeper into Donna Atwood. She's welcome, Donna. She's a lifelong contactee and founder of the Alien Experiencers Network. She'll give us more information about that. It's an organization that focuses on the human side of extraterrestrial, UFO, and paranormal encounters. She's also authoring an upcoming book called Unity Consciousness, a true story of spiritual initiation and transformation. Should be out next year. She's got a degree, BA degree in psychology, and also went to the Natural Wellness School of Massage in Albany, New York. She's a former owner of Mano Technologies. So her married name was Manobianco, and I have to tell a little story here. So when I'm writing my last book on Exoconscious Humans, Will Free Will Survive in an Increasingly Non-Human World, I began to study GEMS, which are global environmental microsensors, and looking at them as just one aspect of what a geoengineered transhuman world would look like. And I came upon a paper by someone named Manobianco, and I footnoted it in my book and wrote about not knowing that Donna was also part of nanotechnologies. So we had a meeting in published print before we had an actual person meeting. But just to be clear, Donna's goal with GEMS was to design and create a technology which would keep people safe from destructive forces of severe weather events, as well as threats from chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear weapons. So that was really a heroic effort on the part of Donna and her ex-husband to work with some government agencies. And we could spend this whole time talking about GEMS, but we won't. We'll do that another time. So today, Donna's passion is helping new experiencers navigate the bewildering and transformative effects of contact so that they may successfully integrate them into their lives. So welcome, Donna.
Thank you, Rebecca. My goodness. That was quite the introduction. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I love how we knew each other before we knew each other.
I know. Synchronicity.
I remember reading the paper that your husband published, your ex-husband published, and just being excited to find out about that technology. And that I never made the connection until I think one day during coaching, you mentioned it. And I'm like, oh, I have to put two and two together here because I think I know this person. So I love that you bring to coaching not only the metaphysical and consciousness and spirituality components of contact, but also the scientific. I think it's helpful. It's that whole spiritual science connection that we have. So before we dig in the weeds of a lot of questions, let's talk about what happened in your contact. What's going on with this? I mean, scientist, nanotechnologist, now experiencer.
Right. So the last very significant experience that I had is what flipped everything around. But I'm a lifelong experiencer. But do you want me to go and describe that right now?
Okay. Sure, but just tell us kind of the high points of what happened to you along the way. And I mean, you can start with the most recent and go backwards, or childhood forward, whatever works best. Obviously, your timeline jumped.
It's okay. It's no worries. How much have I thought about this, right? It doesn't really matter. I can go from the middle and out. It doesn't matter. So the most recent thing that caused this huge transition in my life occurred, I would say, a little over 10 years ago at this point. We had just gotten back from a trip. We were living in upstate New York in Hudson Valley. And we came back from our trip, and our little dog was sick. He had colitis because mommy was gone. And so I ended up sleeping downstairs, long story short, on the leather sofa with the dog, so if he needed to go out to the bathroom, I could get him out, out to the backyard and that type of thing. So the dog, of course, settled in, went to sleep. He was fine, and I could not sleep because, we'd been traveling and whatnot. And I just couldn't fall asleep, right? So he sound asleep. His name was Hugo. And I got up and I looked out. We had an oversized picture window that overlooked the backyard. We were right on the woods, actually, on the Pine Bush Preserve. And it was a beautiful night. There was snowpack. And, I'm just looking around, not thinking about anything at all. Nothing, really. And then I looked, so that was straight ahead. And then I happened to look out a window that was over kind of catty corner behind me. And I just could not believe what I saw. I mean, I was absolutely floored. I was completely astonished. It was a large white luminous orb. It was hovering off the ground, very, very bright light. It looked like it was filled with plasma or something. And of course, I'm like, oh my God, this is a UFO. Oh my gosh. And then I'm looking at it and it's not going anywhere. And I'm like, I pulled the drapery as if that was going to keep me safe, because I'm by the window and I'm like doing this, kind of peering at it. And, it never made any moves to make me afraid. But this was a 50-minute encounter, and it could have gone on longer, I believe, but I'm the one that stopped the encounter, believe it or not. So I'm just watching this thing and, I'm kind of making sure I'm not crazy. I'm not sleeping, seriously. I was like, is this a dream? Really. But I was wide awake. I pinched myself. My dog was still asleep. Amazingly. He was very peaceful. And really, it felt, after I kind of calmed down a little bit, and I don't know how many minutes that took, but it took a little while to sort of settle into this new reality. That's when I started to realize, it felt very loving. It felt intelligent. So we're talking about what I considered to be a technology that was like almost a spiritual machine, if you will, right? It was amazing. Love emanated from it. It did a little kind of what I call a happy dance. It sort of jiggled. It seemed excited to see me, and it seemed like it knew I was there. It never came towards me, and so it never frightened me in that way. However, I was not going to go outside either and try to interact with it because, we've heard of people getting burns or, having serious problems, right? So I mean, I wish I could say it was something more exciting than that, but I mean, believe me, to see something like this is just, it's mind bending, right? And finally, after like 50 minutes, I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going out. It's not coming in. So I felt very safe and loved. And I finally was just like, all right, well, I guess I'll just try to go to sleep. I mean, what was I going to do? There was nothing else to do, right? So I finally laid down on the sofa and I went to sleep. And the next morning, so I'm downstairs in the family room, right? So I knew that my husband was going to be getting up early. He's an early riser and he would be in the kitchen, making his breakfast. And so I kind of knew I needed to get to bed, right? So the next morning I woke up and I felt completely at ease, completely peaceful. Very unusual for me. Seriously, I did tend to be a little keyed up and whatnot. So, and I didn't say anything for a while about what had happened to me. A few days later, I finally did, mention to my husband that I had seen something. And, a lot of people are just not terribly comfortable with this topic. So I really tried to not bring it up too much. But the following night after witnessing this orb, I went to bed around the same time and my whole body shook, my entire body. It was like a grand mal seizure. I do not have a history of grand mal seizures. I didn't take any medication or do any drugs. I don't do drugs or whatever. I nothing like that. And I really didn't know what was happening. But the funny thing is even though I was shaking, I was able to kind of turn my head back and look at the dog. When that was happening, his eyes were really big. He was a little dachshund. So Hugo's eyes were huge and he looked scared. And I said, Mommy, be okay. Mommy, be okay. And then anyway, so after that, things started to get strange. Like that's when sort of like paranormal things started happening. And, that set the stage for the total change in my life. So moving, it changed everything. But I did have encounters on and off throughout my life, starting around the age of 4, from what I remember.
Let's stay on this just for a few minutes because I have a few questions about it. Did you have a sense when it initially happened that there was something soul related going on there for you?
It seemed there was something about it that was kind of vaguely familiar. The funny thing is all my life, I had this sense that there was something I was supposed to do in my life. And I felt like it had something to do with writing. I writing like books or something. I just wasn't entirely certain. I had a feeling it was almost like a wake-up call. But it was very confusing. I didn't understand what had happened. I didn't know why my body shook. I didn't know why I felt so electrical. I didn't understand why suddenly I was beginning to pick up things clairaudiently, what that meant. I mean, I just didn't know anything at all, nothing. But like I said, there was something very vaguely familiar about this. And that's all I knew. And it was a little scary. I mean, I was kind of scared because I'll be honest with you. I mentioned in the coaching group, but I think for close to 5 years, because I have a degree in psychology, I'm not a psychologist. I don't have the amount of education that you do in the field, but I have just enough to be dangerous, right? So, I really was concerned that I, was having a psychotic break or something. I'm like, what is happening here? And even reached out to a psychiatrist, and it was determined that I was fine. And I'm assuming that psychiatrists, they hear all kinds of stories, right? And, I didn't really know anything about shamans at the time. I never heard the term spiritual initiation. I'd heard of spiritual awakenings. I had no idea what any of this stuff was. I mean, there was no reason for me to make any of it up. In fact, I was trying to keep it under wraps because, I could sense my husband wasn't comfortable with the subject, and it's okay. I mean, we're all at different different places, right, in our lives, and that's all right on our journeys. He came from a very conservative background, really nice people, but this is really hard, I mean, And, I was trying to hide it, but something was very different about me. And, I mean, he could tell. And I was a little, it's funny because I remember maybe 1 or 2 days, I guess, after my body shook, I got in the car to drive. And I was having a really hard time driving, and I mean, I knew what to do. I knew how to steer. I knew how to do the gas and the brakes and everything. But the one thing I was having a really hard time with was staying in between the lines on the roads, so not crossing over the line. And so I made sure to like stay over to the side, and I just did the bare minimum, and I got right home. And it was really frightening, very disorienting. So yeah, this has been a huge journey inside of 10 years. I feel almost as if I've done several lifetimes of spiritual growth compacted within about 10 years. That's my sense of what's been going on, but not sure about that.
I was just wondering if asking about the soul and you sharing that you had a sense of this, that there was something about you that was preparing to come through, whether or not our spiritual soul, our spiritual or our soul life kind of makes a guardrail for us so we don't like run off the road. Like you're going to be okay. This is going to be physically and psychically and emotionally traumatizing, but it's a guardrail. Did you experience as a guardrail or an anchor, or how did that soul spiritual piece, how are you able to utilize that?
Great question. So in the beginning, I was bewildered. Okay. Totally bewildered. I didn't know if I'd been abducted and didn't remember, if this was screen memory. I mean, I really didn't know what had happened. But what started to happen is more and more, I started picking up on things clairaudiently. And so I decided to pray, right? Which I've, even before this happened, I kind of thought of that as like a telepathic communication with what we might call God or universe, or, depending on whatever your belief system is, right? And it's funny because over time, I started to get, it's just the craziest things were happening. I mean, I would hear, I remember, so this was some time back, later, a little bit later on after I'd gone through the initial event. And so then I guess now we're getting into autumn, right? So this was spring when this happened. So then we went through summer, and now it's getting into autumn in upstate New York, beautiful time of year. But, so it's rainy and windy and the leaves are coming down, and the leaves were blowing, not fully sideways, but they were coming down. And I heard the word leave. Leaves, leave. I mean, I all kinds of strange things like that. I mean, I can't make this stuff up. Come on. I'm creative, but I'm not that creative, I mean, and then I would hear like a knock on the front door, and I would hear leave. And it was just the strangest thing. So, they were kind of preparing me for what was coming, was what I thought, which was that, our daughter was going to be graduating from college. And, my husband and I are both very good people, but, our marriage it was essentially done. And, we're really good friends now. It's all good. But, that there needed to be a shift. I wasn't growing anymore. And I really wanted to. In fact, I had wanted to go on and get a doctorate in psychology. And my husband was understandably very concerned about the cost of school. Higher education is quite expensive, right? And the return on that investment and paying that back and all of those things, right? But so I was feeling a little bit stuck, and I knew I needed to be doing something. And so I was kind of writing science fiction, and I was in a book club, and something felt a little off. And I just, in fact, everything felt a little off. And it was that I needed to, and I picked up clairaudiently one time something like you need to have more excitement or more happening in your life, because I mean, really it was just sort of the same old thing day in, day out. And a lot of adults, we get kind of trapped in that, right? With our jobs and our daily routines, and we're tied to mortgages and, all of that kind of thing, right? And boy, did they turn my world upside down. But the further I got into it, the more I realized, that this was kind of part of what I was supposed to go through. And this was sort of leading me into the role that I was supposed to fulfill. And I'm guessing that this was something I had agreed to before being born, is what I always read about. And the thing is I'd always known as a child, since childhood, that there was something that I was supposed to be doing. So, and I'm quite certain that they were just shaking it all up to get me to the place, to the location that I needed to be, with the people I needed to be with, the whole thing. So I left, we got a divorce, John and I drove across the country, ended up all the way here in Arizona, and have made connections, obviously, with you and lovely people in the Exoconsciousness group and MUFON and other places. And this is where I need to be. And if I might say, I have personally found the folks here out west are very open to this, a little more so than they are out east, as a general rule, not always, right? But here we have the Phoenix Lights, for example, right? So I think that has a lot to do with it. So yeah. I think that's, that's kind of been my journey, my soul journey, if you will. And I'm just now feeling like I'm just stepping into my role now, just now. So it's taken, 12-ish years or so, something like that, to get to this point. So it's been interesting.
Okay, I'm going to make a jump here. Okay. Since you worked with GEMS, the GEMS project, so that's all about sensors.
Yes, it is.
The second day when you had the shaking, kind of the Kundalini or the grand mal seizure, but probably more like a Kundalini.
Exactly.
So obviously there was some kind of electromagnetic charge going off in your physical body. I would pull it further that there was some kind of charge that was, do you think, possibly reconstructing your DNA in a sense? So back to the GEMS, could there have been something in DNA that also is like a sensor? So you're in the midst of this seizure, you're in the midst of this electrical pulse going through your entire body, like you're having a seizure. And was it DNA related? And if it was DNA related, was there something within that DNA inside your body that was helping you cope with it, helping you sense it, helping you identify it, helping you move through it?
Yeah, that's another good question. Wow. So yeah, it took me a long time to figure out that this was Kundalini. Okay. I really didn't know what to call it. For the longest years, I did not know. Kundalini, clearing out the chakra, DNA activation. So I'm just guessing. Okay. Totally guessing at this point. My sense is that it could be related to what we call junk DNA, which could be extraterrestrial, which we all have. I don't know if some people have a little extra. I don't know that for sure, but my understanding is that we all have some extraterrestrial DNA, that we are children of the stars and that we have star families out, in the universe. So that's what I think was happening. And that's ultimately, a lot of people will have sort of one dominant extrasensory perception ability after these types of events can happen. And mine is clairaudience or telepathy. I've done a little bit of I don't know if that's automatic writing or channeled writing, but I've played around with that a little bit. But this is my dominant. I've had images flash in front of me in a protective manner to warn me of something. So, but clear, and I, sometimes smell things or whatever. So I have some different abilities, but it's all about this here. It's all in the ears for me, for sure. But yeah, I think, it activated something for sure. And this was all activating to help lead me to do the role that I'm stepping into. I believe anyway. I suspect that that's what's going on. Yeah. Do you have any more insight into that? Like, for example, mitochondrial DNA or anything like that,
Well, my insight into this is, once again, hypothetical, but just to tie also, when you saw the orb, you identified it as plasma. You said that it seemed like it had a plasma quality, and plasma has it's a charged particle, has electrically charged particles to it. Now scientists are slow to admit, but the ones that do say that over 99% of the universe is plasma, that we here on Earth are the 3D. So really, creation is from plasma to gas to liquid to solid. So we're really we're like down into the funneling chain of life. If you look at, we like to look at life going out, but really it's more of a funneling in from, you could say, the field of consciousness. And the second thing I've been thinking about, well, if 99% of the universe is plasma, then what's junk DNA? Is junk DNA plasma?
Oh, I couldn't. I have no idea.
And if junk DNA is plasma, then are we looking at, you had a plasma encounter?
It's interesting. It's very interesting. It was spherical. It's pretty large, actually. It wasn't like the little ones that you always hear about with the photographs, right? I'm not talking that. I'm talking quite a bit larger than that, and very intelligent, no question about it. In fact, it felt like pure consciousness to me.
Absolutely, because we call it extraterrestrial because we identify beings within that field of consciousness. And also, it's plasma. Angels are plasma beings. A lot of these beings are plasma. Orbs are plasma beings. And that then was communicating possibly with your DNA.
Yeah.
Like, I'm here. We're going to shake things up.
Oh, they did.
So tell us about initiation. Like, what's initiation?
So when you look at the shamans, like Native American shamans, a lot of them go through this type of an initiation. And it really was, truly, I was initiated into all of this. I didn't see it coming at all. Okay. So it's even more surprising than, for people who in college, they want to join, one of the Greek houses, right? And they go through some, strange initiation things. At least, you're walking into something there. I had no idea. I was just taking care of my little doggy, and I couldn't sleep that night. And, I had no idea, but I was initiated because, I saw this thing and then my whole body shook, and that can happen with the shamans. And the thing is, truthfully, I had reached a point in my life where, like I said, I was standing still, and more than anybody else that I personally know, I love to learn, and I'm all about this growth and, moving forward. And I feel that the earth is the earth school, and that we are here to learn and experience a lot of different things, because we're taking things away, for the soul, right? So we can learn. And I was just kind of stuck. I was doing a little bit, but at that time, I wasn't moving forward in the way that I really wanted to. And there wasn't much I could do about it at that point, unless I created, a big rocket. So it's kind of what happened. So I'm sorry. What was the question again? I apologize. I went down this.
Talking about initiation.
Oh yeah, the initiation, right. So, and I was initiated because the thing is I started hearing from all kinds of things, and I didn't know what was happening. I heard from, darker entities. I thought I was being possessed. I was not possessed. Okay. I mean, my body was not possessed. All right. But I was hearing things that were dark. And I heard from beautiful, loving things. I started hearing from a lot of things, which is why I thought I was going off the deep end. I really thought, because how would I know? It's not like I was born into Native American culture or had studied it or knew a lot about it. I'm, as my daughter would say, a middle-aged white woman in the suburbs, I mean, I didn't know any of this stuff, right? I got thrown in the deep end. I mean, I got really thrown in the deep end. And, and there was also, for a period of time right after I had seen the orb and my body shook, I would go near the television and it would get staticky. I would go near the lamps and they would, dim and do crazy things. And I would start seeing like the heat from the lamp rising out from the light bulbs back then, were burned much hotter than these newer ones now, right? And I mean, I was seeing all kinds of crazy things. I mean, it was really nuts, So, but it was an initiation and I had to learn, the hard way what was happening. But part of what they wanted to get through to me, why I was stuck. There was a reason why I was stuck, and I really didn't know why or what to do, or I was so stuck. I didn't just know what to do at all. And so what they did is they did come in and shake things up, just like you said. And, oh God, this is so embarrassing. So I've always been a very nice person, very kind-hearted. I mean, I adore people. I've said it many times, I know, in coaching, and I do. I love people so much. But I had a tendency through most of my life to, you could kind of walk all over me, right? One of those deals. So these beings, these energies, whatever they are, they have a sense of humor. So they sent me outside in winter. So this is after the leaves blowing and the leave and all that, and the knocking on the door and all that. So they had me out walking. It was snowy. It was very cold. This is upstate New York. It was quite cold. And they're like, go ahead and walk, because there's an area you could walk in the wooded area. There was an entrance right there. It was beautiful, really beautiful, bucolic location, to be honest with you. So all of a sudden I hear, sit down. And I'm going, what? And I hear, sit down. Okay. So I sat down. Well, I had a short coat on and a pair of jeans, and I had boots and things on. So you can imagine my pants and my bottom got very wet. So this is really embarrassing, but they have a sense of humor. I mean, I heard a lot of crazy things over this, period of years, especially in the beginning. There was a lot of this silliness, but they got their point across. You don't have to do everything that somebody tells you to do, right? Because I tended to do, what people wanted me to do. And that was how I ended up in the situation I was in. So once that became clear to me, then I started to, assert myself more, right? And, the people around me weren't used to that. So it made things really interesting. I'm not saying I was horrible. I wasn't horrible. I mean, but it's just, I just started to assert, and it was a big change, right? So, yeah.
It's the friends and family effect.
Absolutely. The whole family system, was impacted by this. So no question about it. Yeah. But in a way, I thought it was really good, because while I always was a very attentive mother, right? It was also good for my daughter to see that there was some change happening, and that that I was growing. It's not really good for a daughter to see a mother, to be too kind of passive. So
right.
Yeah. So it was necessary. And then it prepared me for many other things that came up, over the years, over the time. I had to become, really strong to deal with a number of things. And ultimately, I think that strength might be necessary in dealing with the subject matter that we're speaking of. There's always pushback on this, right? And there's always going to be, but it's not going to stop me from the work that I'm doing. I'm not afraid to speak out. I'm not, pointing fingers or blaming anybody. This is a difficult topic, right? I mean, it would be difficult for the government, for example, to come out and say, oh yeah, because it's shocking for a lot of the population. So I do understand that. So my sense is that it was preparing me to be part of a grassroots effort to bring these ideas forward in a way that people can understand. And it's important that we do this, because people will think that, that they're mentally ill or something, when in fact, this is just part of, a transition process, as I see it. It's a transformation, really.
It's interesting. It's like you were at a turning point in terms of almost being kind of that frozen, stuck trauma response where you weren't moving, and you could have easily have like gone to a psychologist or a therapist. You could have read self-help books and journaled, but it sounds like you just allow your own soul to heal you and to move you and to melt all that frozen part of you.
I was frozen in place. And I mean, believe me, I went on the internet and did some searches. And, once I went into massage therapy school, a couple of teachers asked me about my weird spiritual experiences, what I called it, because I didn't know what else to call it. And, so they were the first ones that said, oh yeah, that's very spiritual in nature. And, oh yes, we've heard of this. And so it really helped me, a lot.
That's
and
wonderful.
Yeah. And then over time, I started learning more and more and more. And I did find out about spiritual initiations by doing some research. And, little by little, but I was such in the thick of it for so long. And I'm hearing things. So I'm having to function in this world while I'm picking up things, I get multidimensional things.
Yeah.
So you're in two sort of in two places in a sense, right?
Yeah.
Here you are, and yet you're here doing things, and that took a lot of getting used to. I can't even, But now it's so clear, Rebecca. I'm sure you know me at this point. I mean, I'm not mentally ill. I'm high functioning. I am fine. I am fine. But that is actually what that is. I think my number one goal is for people who go through something that's this, sort of, it rattles you that much and changes you that much. I don't want everybody to assume, that it's severe mental illness. If you've never had severe mental illness and this suddenly comes on like this, and you've seen, a plasma-filled orb, well, maybe we need to be thinking about this differently. And I really think it's important to get that word out. So that's what keeps me going every day.
So, are there any specific beings that you relate to now, or is there any specific being communicating to you?
I've heard from so many, to be honest with you. And for quite a while, I kept hearing the word medium. So I think they were trying to tell me I was a medium, right? Okay. So again, I was so clueless what was happening. But I have heard from an extraterrestrial being named Chica, who identified as being, and I almost fell over. I mean, I'll be honest, I was scared when I first heard it. He told me very, very lovingly, very kindly, he didn't threaten me in any way. He told me that he was a mantis being. And I'll be honest, I froze. I froze, I have heard from Ra, like the Ra. And of course, the first time I heard from Ra, I was like, yeah, right. There's why would you contact little old Donna? But I've heard from Ra more than once, probably 2 or 3 times, definitely twice. I've heard from the archangelic realm quite a bit, actually. So I seem to hear most frequently from Archangel Michael and Uriel. I'm trying to remember if I don't believe I've heard from Raphael. I believe I've heard from Gabriel. But Michael and Uriel most often. And of course, you can imagine again, I'm going, yeah, right. But I'm laughing because I'm laughing at my response, because who expects to hear? I mean, you don't expect to hear this. And I have, yes, I even heard from Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. And of course, once again, I didn't believe that either. I didn't believe any of it, to be honest with you, So I think they understand that we are in just total, bewilderment when this is going on. But I have received loving guidance. I feel a very, 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 very close relationship with the greater one, if you will. I don't think that they necessarily care for whatever name, it is, because they understand they're part of a greater one, but they know that we humans we need that. We kind of need something, right? So every day I tell them I love them, and, I thank them, and I ask them for guidance and for protection, and they do guide me. They do guide a lot of the work that I've done so far, on the internet and on my book. And I'm getting the sense I may have another book that's coming up. I'm not sure. I think I'm picking that up now. So it might be more than one book coming out, but yeah, so it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
So would you tell us how you define exoconsciousness? And you mentioned Chica, and did that have an effect? Just to tell the listeners, so Kevin Briggs is in our group, and Kevin channels the Council of Eight, which Chica is a part of that. And it's been we're going to do a show soon with people that are in the group that have also been channeling this group of 8 that Kevin channels. But could you tell us a little bit about how coaching's impacted you and how it's influenced your ability to integrate? And
tremendously. I mean, as soon as I heard about your group and I saw the word exoconsciousness, it was quick. It was easy for me to put that together. I guess even though I had been so very busy, I'd had many things happen. Excuse me. I'd been in it long enough that I could put exo and consciousness together, and it made sense to me. Yeah, I mean, it just helped confirm that I'm not crazy. I mean, we have 2 PhD psychologists, right? You're one of them. We have a physician in the group. These are very very, very intelligent people in the group, right? And very genuine people. Nobody's lying. Nobody's, making more of this than what it is. Nor are we trying to make it smaller than what it is. I mean, it is truly significant, right? For me, exoconsciousness, exoconsciousness got me into your group because I was able to identify that. And then the more I got into this, for me, unity consciousness, it rings very true with exoconsciousness being a part of that, because I have heard from extraterrestrial entities. But I've heard from spiritual entities. I've seen angels appear in front of me. I mean, I've really been through a lot. We're barely scratching the surface here. It's a oneness. It's a oneness in the universe, and I think I really finally arrived at that. Like, I've heard it before, but I didn't quite get it until I've gone through all this, and we've studied and we've talked. The other thing is, as you well know, is I am just less afraid. I am less afraid of any evil, darkness, nuclear threats. I mean, those things, I take them seriously. It's not like they're not a threat, but I just understand that there is more to life than walking around in the physical 3D, 4D, right? There's way more. So there's something beyond this, and to have the sense that of connecting now and connecting maybe later on upon passing, right? Oh, noise outside. It's just really beautiful. So I think I'm even happier, right? I feel more whole and more at peace now through the coaching, and I really appreciate it, Rebecca. You've done a great job with the group, and
the group has done a great job. It's the group for sure. Yeah, it's the group. And it just to tie another piece to the orb that showed up, Donna and several other people are involved in an orbs project with the group. So studying what's this orb phenomenon mean? And you want to just briefly tell people about how that's coming together and what that is?
Yeah, so we're creating a survey, basically, a simple survey to start with, at least. We're trying to get a better sense of who's seeing what, So what percentage of people, to start with, that are within the exoconsciousness community have seen, an orb? And if you have seen an orb, how many orbs have you seen? Lots of them? Have you know what I mean? Like, I've had many encounters. I just told you about the one major one, but I've had several encounters. So we're basically just pinging people to see, kind of where they're at, just get some very basic data to start with, right? To see how, if at all, they felt transformed in their life. I've shared with you that this has been a huge transformation. I mean, that's all this, it's like transcendence, and it's like, now I can't give back enough to humanity, right? I mean, while I was always loving, it's even more so. Those would be my answers, right? But yeah, that's basically what it is. We're just trying to get some real basic data. And then who knows, Rebecca, I don't know. I mean, if you're thinking about putting it out beyond the group or not, but that's where we're starting. So it's very exciting to think where it could go, though. And I think, again, that this work is really relevant, because the study is relevant, because people all over the world are seeing these orbs. The military is seeing these orbs. I mean, they're not hiding it. So I think we need to have a better sense of how many people are seeing them, and how many people, what percentage of the population is being impacted. Because I have a funny feeling that many, many, many more people will be impacted over the coming years, right? That's my sense. I don't know that for a fact, right? But I don't know if you agree with that or have maybe any opinion.
Totally agree with that.
Yeah.
It's not going to slow down. No. Of humans awakening to these, humans like you awakening, humans like me awakening, that we're going to be able to see them. We'll be seeing the unseen. And that's part of being exoconscious. That's part of being an experiencer. We see things that other people haven't seen. And that's going to be probably one of the most exciting human shifts in history.
I agree 100%.
I think there's always been mystics and shamans, but to get it to the grassroots level of Donna and Rebecca, people in the coaching group, normal people, normal everyday grassroots people, seeing the unseen and having places to talk about it and share about their experiences and grow and integrate into that. Of course, it's going to attract more orbs. And I think we're going to also be learning a lot more about plasma and the consciousness within plasma.
It's so exciting. And that's why I think this work is so important. It is so important that as many of us that can, get out there and expand on this and be available and come back and with exoconsciousness, and then we all are networking together. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, there are billions of people on the planet, and you know what I mean. There is so much room for so many people to do this good work, and that's what it is. I mean, it really is very, very good work.
It's who we are as humans. So tell us how people find the Alien Experiencers Network and find out more about your book and more about you. How do they contact you?
So I'm all over the internet. I'm everywhere.
Are you on the internet as Donna Atwood?
So mostly you'll find me as DM Atwood, and that might be the best way. So D for Donna, M for Marie Atwood, dmatwood.com. And I should just, for full disclosure, I don't know if you remember this, Rebecca, or if I said it, I think I did. In one of our coaching groups, that I had been led to change the name of Alien Experiencers Network very, very recently. So I'm going to be shifting that over to ET Experiencers Network, because I picked up Clarity. I mean, they really are not liking and I understand. And I'll be honest with you. I'll be honest with everybody. I felt very conflicted about Alien Experiencers Network. At the same time, I was kind of piggybacking off of Ancient Aliens. I was just trying to reach more people. That's all. I could have gone with ET or something, you know what I mean? But I chose Alien, but now I'm going to have to go back and change that, which I'm happy to do because we co-create. That's what we do. And they know that we make mistakes when we try, and that's okay. They're not angry, but they always find a way to let me know. So that's going to be happening in short order. But yeah, so for right now, it is Alien Experiencers Network. I'm on Twitter, on Facebook, primarily as DM Atwood. I'm on Instagram. I'm all over. I'm on Pinterest. I'm everywhere. I'm all over. I have a YouTube channel, which is started under Alien Experiencers Network. So again, that name will be changed, but I'm everywhere. So I keep busy.
We are definitely going to have you back, because part 2 in the future, as your book comes together and the Experiencers Network comes together, the ET Experiencers Network comes together, I want to have a long talk about co-creation.
Oh, yeah.
Because you've been in scientific circles co-creating, and now you're in sort of spiritual / science co-creating with extraterrestrials and in this massive field of consciousness that we're dealing with. And so that'll be a fun discussion. I think people will be very interested in the tools and the techniques that you use for your co-creation.
Absolutely.
So thank you for coming.
Oh, Rebecca, thank you. This has been so much fun.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing and being so just forthright and vulnerable with your story.
Hey, listen, this is easy compared to what I went through before. Sitting on the snow, it prepared me.
Yeah, we could have a whole session on discernment.
Yes, we could. Yes, we
okay.
could.
Thank you for coming. Thank you so much.
Rebecca.
Yeah, we'll have you back again.
Okay.